The world-famous cellist Yo-Yo famously stated that music was invented because it creates community. I bet we can all think of different ways in which music does this. Making and listening to music creates a space for people to communicate, congregate, share experiences, relax, and feel a part of something greater than themselves. Music also brings people from different communities together. Tonight it was great to see many different families here, church family, school family, youth symphony family, and other friends all here together to experience some music together. Thank you all for coming. Tonight's music is reflective music that was written to help process sadness, and it does so in multiple ways. Prayerfully, anguished expressions of why, acknowledgments of fear, and expressions of beauty, love, and hope. To introduce this music, I will tell you some of the story of the composer's life, as well as some of the behind-the-scenes story behind the actual music. The music we will hear tonight is the String Quartet No. 8, composed in 1960 by Dmitri Shostakovich. Shostakovich was born in St. Petersburg, Russia in 1906 and died in Moscow in 1975. He lived in a turbulent and highly politicized world. His serious talent as a composer and pianist was recognized early on, and his first symphony, a graduation piece from the Petrograd Conservatory, was performed by the Leningrad Symphony when he was just 19 years old. About the same time that a new political and social experiment, the Soviet Union, was begun. As Shostakovich was increasingly recognized and his popularity grew, both within the Soviet Union and around the world, it became really important to Soviet authorities that he be seen as upholding the values and tastes of the state, and certainly not those of the decadent West. A pivotal moment in his life occurred in 1936 when Stalin attended a performance of his opera, Lady Macbeth of the Mtsensk district. A few days later, an unsigned article appeared in Pravda, the state newspaper, attacking the music and story as too modern, too personally expressive, and certainly not in line with Soviet taste and dictates. This was a clear warning shot in an effort to put Shostakovich in his place. You see, Stalin was also at that time beginning his first great purge, where so-called enemies of the people were shipped off to Siberian prison camps. Overnight, Shostakovich went from popular, well-loved composer to outcast, living in fear. He knew other artists, poets that had been sent away and never heard from again. If he didn't toe the line, he would likely disappear as well. Perhaps it was his popularity and fame which bought him some time, and he was able to write his fifth symphony, in which he publicly described as an artist's response to just criticism. This rehabilitated his name and standing, though he was still held on a short leash. Attacks and censure from the state were to come again in 1948. Jumping forward another 12 years to 1960, two notable things happened in the life of Shostakovich. The first was that the state ruler of the day, Nikita Khrushchev, wanted Shostakovich to become the leader of the newly founded Russian Union of Composers, a major honor that would protect him and his two children. It came with a catch, however. He would be required to join the Communist Party, something he had sworn he would never do. In the end, after much bullying and in the interest of self-preservation, he did sign the papers. Afterwards, however, he was racked with guilt and despair. The second event of 1960 was his trip to Dresden, Germany, for a project to create music for a documentary movie about the Allied bombing of that city in 1945. On arriving there, he was deeply affected by the scenes of devastation still present 15 years after the bombing. He quickly withdrew to his lodging, and in a remarkable outburst of creativity, wrote the String Quartet No. 8 in 3 days. At the top of his new score, he wrote, "To the memory of the victims of fascism and war." There are many views as to what this dedication actually meant. The Soviet authorities took it as a stance against Western powers, particularly their arch enemies, the Germans. Others see it as a dedication to oppressed people all around the world. And others see it as a dedication to Shostakovich's own memory. In truth, it is likely a bit of all three. Here, however, is a telling story from the first performance of the String Quartet No. 8. Radoslav Dubinsky, a violinist of the famed Borodin String Quartet, attended the premiere of Shostakovich's 8th Quartet. He recounted that after the premiere, some party members stood to say that the quartet depicted the party's stand against fascism and abhorrence of war. After some time of listening to this talk, Shostakovich finally and uncomfortably stood up to say to the gathering, "No, no, no. This is my personal statement against any and all forms of fascism." Let's get to the music itself. The piece has five movements. The movements are sections of the piece, which in this piece are elided together without pauses in between. All the movements feature a 4-note motive extensively, which sounds like this. I'm just going to run to the piano and play it. These notes are D, E flat, C, and B. In German, the note E flat is given as S, and the note B, natural, is referred to as H. So this motive is actually DSCH, Dmitri Shostakovich's signature. This is the beginning of the reasoning that Shostakovich wrote this piece in memory of himself, or at least considered himself among the victims of fascism and war. This line of thought continues with the fact that he quotes his earlier music quite extensively throughout the quartet. The first movement begins prayerfully and somberly in C minor, using the DSCH motive as if it is the subject of a Bach-like fugue. Incidentally, Bach also incorporated his own signature, BACH, into his final monumental work, the Art of Fugue. Quickly, however, the fugal music ends, though the mood stays, and we hear a dreamy quote from his first symphony, his first triumph and beginning of his promising career. In the quartet, however, this music is cast in a slower, more humorless character. After a while, the quartet continues with an allusion to his Fifth Symphony of 1938, in which the first violin offers a ray of sunshine and hope, with E naturals making the mode C major. The second violin, however, sways in the background with many flats, unable to fully commit to the hope of C major. Notably, at the big cadences in this movement, the note which makes the chord major or minor is left out altogether, leaving only the hollow emptiness of a perfect fifth. The second movement is music of great swirling energy. It is relentless, heart-pounding stuff. DSCH motives are now flying around at great speed. It feels like a battle, a chase, a great release of anger, fear, and frustration. Musicologist Michael Parloff describes it as a thuggish movement. It culminates twice in a big melody, which is a quotation from his piano trio of 1944. This melody has a distinct Jewish and klezmerish quality, which he used in the piano trio to pay tribute to the mass killing of Jews by the SS in Majdanek, Ukraine during the Second World War. Here's what the tune sounds like in the piano trio version. However, in the quartet, you will hear this music screamed at full volume and full speed. The third movement is an ironic waltz that might be fitting of like Halloween music. The tempo is quick, the music breathless, and it sounds like we may be dancing to avoid death. Toward the end, he inserts a quotation from his heart-pounding cello concerto. The third movement fades into the fourth movement with the first violin alone playing very quietly, only to be forcefully interrupted by three accented notes played by the other three players. Commentators have likened these notes to the loud knocks on the door in the middle of the night by police coming to arrest so-called enemies of the people. Legend had it that Shostakovich slept with a packed suitcase in case this happened to him. The fourth movement eventually settles by the DSCH movement into music of hope, a vision of reordered goodness. This begins with a quote from a well-known Russian revolutionary song called "Tormented by Harsh Captivity," looking back to the hopes of revolutionaries whose visions of goodness didn't quite come true. Then he briefly quotes a passage from his opera, Lady Macbeth of the Mtsensk district, the work that got him into trouble all those years earlier. The passage quoted is a short line from the title character who is imprisoned in Siberia along with her lover, Sergei. She sings, "Sergei, my darling, at last, I haven't seen you for a whole day." Despite being a soprano voice, Shostakovich masterfully puts this line in the cello, the lowest instrument of the quartet, but way up high in its register, creating a special reaching and yearning sound. For most of my life, I did not know of this reference to Lady Macbeth, but this moment in the quartet has always been a moment of great beauty to me, a moment of heartbreak, a moment to tear up. The fifth movement is a sort of reprise of the first movement, back to Bach, solemnity, and the hollow open fifth, neither major nor minor at the end. This quartet reminds me of something a former teacher of mine in grad school, Karl Palnak, is quoted as saying. Music is one of the ways we make sense of our lives, one of the ways in which we express feelings when we have no words, a way for us to understand things with our hearts when we can't with our minds. So let's now welcome the quartet to play this masterwork for us. Matthew Redpath, Lilevjen on cello, and Ezra on Viola.
said more.